Y'all remember that movie Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey? That's what I think of when I'm thinking about Genesis, when I'm thinking about Lucifer. He was always disguising himself as charming, but he was deceitful. Deceived from the get-go. Deceived Eve. Deceived Adam. And then we go into Genesis, where we come to Noah, and he builds the ark, and he's trying to be deceived. Builds the ark, saves the animals, and then I can't remember which son it is. Seth? That's Seth. Shem? Yeah, it might have been him. They end up giving birth to, starts with a T, Terah. I'd have to look at my notes. But that's the one who gave birth to Abraham, the father of many nations, as God said he was going to. But here's the thing. Abraham's wife, Isaac's wife, and Jacob's wife, one that they loved and that they were betrothed to, all had a womb that were barren. And you can imagine how they felt and how they were deceived by the prince of darkness, by the ruler of this world, saying, God doesn't love you, you're not going to have a child. And then they had to have that faith. And even when they didn't have that faith, God's mercy still shone over them, still was shining down upon them, over the deception, through the chaos. Because Sarah is like, oh, here, you're not going to have no children, so have my handmaid. So Ishmael is born. And then 90 years old, Sarah's like, I'm going to have a child. God's like, yeah, you're going to have a child. Oh, that's funny. How is that going to be? I'm old age. Remind you, Adam and Eve ate of the fruit of good and bad. So they knew the knowledge that you get well into your age, it's going to be harder to have a child. Well, God's like, if you have faith in me, anything is possible. So she born a child. That child was Isaac. And then Abraham was told by God to take his son and sacrifice him. Now, I'm going to have to go look back into that. Was that Elohim, the one and only, our Father? Or was that the God of this world, Satan, telling Abraham, trying to deceive him? And then an angel of the Lord came to Abraham right before Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac, and said, hold on a minute. I see that you have good faith, so I'm going to have to read into that a little bit more. So here, Isaac is born. Isaac has the same thing, the same issue with Rachel, right? Rachel can't bear a child. Well, same thing that Sarah did, Rachel did. Say, hey, here's my handmaid. Have children. So they had children. And then Jacob comes along. Really loves Rachel. But was deceived by the dad, Laban, saying, no, you got to have my firstborn. They end up toiling for 20 years. 7 for Leah, and then 7 for Rachel. Well, here's the same thing. We're going again. Rachel's probably being told, these thoughts are probably coming in her head, saying, you're not going to be able to have a child. Jacob wasn't born until, Jacob was the 11th, Joseph was the 11th child of Jacob and Rachel. The first of Jacob and Rachel. And then Benjamin was the second of Rachel and Jacob. So here's Joseph. Now this is all just showing God's plan and God's mercy, because he was, like, for instance, with Rebecca, or with Rachel, her womb was closed, but God remembered her, had mercy on her, opened her womb, and had Joseph. Joseph is one of the youngest of the 12, right? He's getting picked on, at 17 years old. His brothers deceive him, tell him to come near. They throw him into a pit, sell him to the Midianites, which sell him down to Egypt. So then he goes to Egypt, becomes really popular with Pharaoh, interprets one of his dreams. The Pharaoh makes him governor of all the land of Egypt, just like right at the same level as Pharaoh. Big famine because of the interpretation of the dream. 7 years of plentiful, 7 years of famine. Well, during the famine is when Jacob told the other brothers, go down to Egypt and buy us some bread because, we're dying down here. We need to get some food. Well, they go down there and Joseph knows that it's his brothers. But the brothers don't know that it's him because you can imagine Joseph's like dressed up looking like an Egyptian, not looking like an Israelite, not looking like a Hebrew man, not looking like a shepherd like the rest of his family was. So Joseph knows this, sends his brothers back, say, hey, you need to send me your youngest brother, and then I will keep one of your brothers in jail, which he kept, I think it was Simeon in jail. And then, so they go back, talk to Jacob, the father. Jacob's like, at first, I'm not going to send my youngest son because I've already lost one and one's in jail. Well, he is convinced, sends Benjamin down there. Joseph sees Benjamin, knows that it's him, goes and weeps privately. Well, he ends up, showing himself, revealing that, hey, I'm your brother. And then tells his brothers, don't be mad that you sold me because God hath mercy on me and God blessed me with all this bounty. And here I am to lead you out of the land of Canaan with your dad. Is your dad alive? He says, is my father alive? He says. They say, surely he is. Well, they go back, get Jacob, bring Jacob down there. Jacob ends up passing away, and then Joseph passed away. But this is where they stay and they sojourn in the land of Goshen, which is like a very fertile land, very great land. Well, Pharaoh dies. New leader comes into Egypt. Sees he's threatened by the Israelites because they have multiplied and they're strong. So he creates them. He turns them into slaves, and then he ends up. And this is where we go into Exodus, where he's saying, you're going to kill all the Israelites, all the boys, firstborn. We're going to get rid of them. We don't want them here. Well, one of them was saved from the house of Levi. That one that was saved was Moses. Moses was put into a basket and picked up by an Egyptian woman, mistress, I think it might have been, raised as an Egyptian, just as Joseph was basically raised as an Egyptian. Moses then is raised as an Egyptian and then saves his people and leads his people out of Egypt into the promised land. That just shows God is always at work. He's always like steps ahead of what the devil's plan is, the deceiver. So the deceiver has his own plan and he's rocking it over us, right? But God knows his plans. So then he's already has something circumvented and mitigated to be a blessing in your life. So whenever you feel like, why is this happening to me? This is just going to get worse. Why is it getting worse? Do not be deceived by the blessing of which will come into your life by God, our Father, who art in heaven, and hallowed be thy name. So just know, hardships are going to come. Traitors are going to be there. You will be deceived. But the Lord God is blessing you. Just have faith, hold fast, and believe. Peace.